right here.
Oh man,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is so baller.
So it's awesome, all with the graffiti tag and everything. Um,
Is that
so
like papier mache or how's it made?
It's like
it's
cardboard.
no, yeah, it's made out of wood with carpet attached to it.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm really hyped on it. He's really
That
hyped on it too.
that would be amazing to share with the shelter prop from in China.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that's right. We've got a Nounish funded group who are building little animal shelters in China for strays. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love cats. I love cats a lot.
Aha! There we
that
go.
is not what I was expecting.
Yeah,
That is amazing.
yeah, it's really funny. He's so hyped on it.
Awesome. Okay, guys. Sorry for the delay there. We were just having a bit of issue getting live on YouTube, but we are now live. We're live on the YouTubes, live on X, live with the Based Builders Show. So welcome everybody to the Based Builders Show. Carlos and I have been jamming on bass for quite a while now, since February, every week, getting together, just talking about what's happening in the ecosystem, who's building, and which artists are creating interesting things. And so when I saw, Danny, that you were going to be dabbling in the bass waters coming up this week, I reached out. Danny's a friend of the show. We've had him on the Now Square a few times on our spaces. So I reached out and said, "Hey, come on and tell us about what you are doing." So, thank you, Danny, for joining us, and nice to see your face.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Uh, I mean, do you want to dive right into kind of what we got going on this week, or do
Not
we want to
not
get there
not quite.
naturally? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, let's tease it a little bit for sure. But the first thing I think we should do actually is just ask you about yourself, because I think there might be some people who are watching who maybe aren't familiar with your work, and maybe they don't know about Creature World. So I'd love to hear your story a little bit, and how you came to create the NFT project Creature World and some of the other projects that you've released.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the first thing is like, and I don't take any offense, but I'll kind of correct the record a little bit. Um, Creature World isn't actually an NFT project.
That's
Creature World
true, right?
has you know predated the existence of NFTs. Funny enough, um, and I like it's funny. I almost like had to correct myself. I was like, well, NFTs have been around for a second, but no, Creature World actually does predate the existence of NFTs. Um, but Creature World is an art project that is on a base level dedicated to bringing a dream world to life. And it's one that isn't married to any particular medium. So really, any any way that we see you can get a bunch of people together, excited to connect with one another, excited to sort of get lost in a dream, is a medium that we engage with. So a lot of the time that's coming in the form of paintings, public artwork, graffiti, sculpture, clothing, digital art, media, you name it. I mean, we're in our studio right now where like there's some crazy shit around, that we haven't even come out with yet, So,
Yeah.
um, but but sort of how it began to intersect with the digital world was I had I had always been drawing these cartoons and always been dreaming about this little world that I would kind of run away to, and and the first place that I really kind of found a home in it was through painting. Um, Give me 2 seconds, Jake. Do you think it's possible you could use headphones on that audio? Forgive me. Sorry. The first place that I sort of found a home and all that was through painting. Where I would be just kind of in my bedroom in high school, and I would be painting these pictures, and bit by bit, canvases are popping up on the walls around me, and I get to this point where I'm kind of looking around, and I'm like, I'm in a world of my creation, and I recognize that this is a feeling that just that that is impacting me unlike anything else in my life, and I really wanted to share that with people, like share that feeling, not even like share the work. I wanted to share that feeling where other people could look around and be like, wow, like I've run away from the universe. I'm somewhere else now, and it's really fun. So I moved to
Can
New
I
York. Oh, yeah.
can I ask you? So before that, when Creature World was more of an art movement, but not yet a digital art movement, did you feel that it was too geographically centered? Like it was really only there for people who, who were in your same geographic area? Was that part of the impetus, or?
Well, that kind of came later. There really is this like supernatural progression that like um, and I'll kind of speed through this because I like the question that you're asking because it's exactly kind of like where my head goes with this. It's I took those paintings up and moved to New York. I was like, I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to bring this to people. And I moved to a city because I was like, exactly as you're saying, I was like, there are a lot of people here. So I started throwing all these shows. I started doing all this graffiti, really anything to put the art around tons of people. And that was kind of where I got that like initial footing with Creature World was hey, Creature World is coming to the city and like New York City, and we're all gonna rally around this. And then COVID came, and that really was like this first moment where it was like it doesn't matter if you're in a city or not. I was experiencing that luxury of you step outside, there's millions of people. Um, it doesn't matter if you're in a city or not. We're not linking up. We are not connecting with each other. You are staying in your house, or um, you know, my mom would tell me I have asthma, and my mom was like, if you get COVID, you know what's gonna happen. You're gonna die. And it wasn't true. I got COVID like
Telling
a
it
few
like it is.
times.
Jeez.
Like I got it a few times. I was totally fine. But she was like, "You're gonna die." And I was like, "Okay, shit, that's really bad." Um, so
Thanks, Mom.
yeah, exactly. So but there really was this situation where we were forced apart from each other, and our one means of connection was the internet. And that really, that really was what inspired me to start experimenting with the digital, because I was like, the only way that we're going to connect with each other for years. And I understood at the very start, I was like, I know this is going to be years. And yeah, was like I understood that that's going to be through screens. So what does it look like to facilitate this same sort of connection and experience with artwork and with each other through digital means? That was what initially drove me towards Web3, and then there were so many other unique discoveries that kind of followed, exactly as you're touching on. Of all of a sudden, I'm watching the stats on my social media change from being like 90% New York City to being all around the world. And then I'm putting out, I'm screen printing things in my studio, which like at one point was my apartment before things got too crazy that I had to throw my bed out on the street and like set up a print factory. um, and uh, and I'm getting all these addresses in to pack these boxes, and there's like thousands of prints, and I'm realizing that like one out of every two of these isn't even in the country, and uh, it really just kind of it blew my mind, because that was thanks to digital art. The fact that like it doesn't matter where you are, we're all able to engage to the same degree.
It kind of reminds me of something that Seneca, one of the founders of Nouns, has said before, which is that the internet almost enables like a second wave of urbanization where you don't necessarily have to move to the big city in order to have people see your art or to meet people from other countries, and all the things that you used to have to move to an urban area to take advantage of are kind of facilitated by the internet and now also by on chain.
Absolutely. Signing a contract real fast, but I'm listening to every single word.
I love
There
it.
we go.
We do it live. Seeing you in that studio, you're bringing back memories. The last time that you joined us on a show, I don't know if you remember this or not. Your studio was flooding. Do you remember that?
Oh, you know,
You were like bailing out water while you were on the show with us. It was nuts. Something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. That studio flooded more than once. We're lucky now. We are a few floors up.
Okay.
It's I'll peek my head in here because this is video and we haven't done video before, to see what's going on at the studio right now. Here's some people,
Nice.
some more people, some creature. Yeah, it's fun. It's, the studio could be in a more presentable place for sure, but it goes around. I really have a huge appreciation for the way that you design your space around you and how much that impacts your life. So if you ever have the opportunity to see the Creature World Studio in person, I didn't do it justice in my little walk around, but it really is the closest thing to living inside of a Creature World artwork that you can find.
I love that. Well, maybe that's a good sort of segue into talking about the Creature World community a little bit and how that's continued to grow, from 2021 on with the
Mhm.
advent of bringing in digital art. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. The way that I have described it and have thought about it is I was never like a digital art maxi, I just have a great appreciation for the tools that allow us to connect with people, but ultimately my head is like always on what do I want to connect with people using, and um, and if something's effective, that is why I'm going to stay. It's not because I'm married to a specific technology or a specific tool. It's because I'm married to speaking with people, and it just happens to be that digital art is like a really powerful way to do that, and it's a really impactful way to do that. And so I was really, I was really sort of discovering almost you know, as how do I phrase this? Initial Creature World collection comes out. The initial Creature World digital art collection comes out, and
Yeah.
and at the start we kind of had this vision of what are interesting things that you can do using technology that you can't do in real life. What does it look like to have these sort of group activities, these immersive digital artworks, these 3D landscapes, but to continue to discover technology that is evolving in real time, to be working with tools that are evolving, where 6 months from now you're able to do something completely new. It really feels like you are able to play on the frontier of possibility, um, and I love how a lot of the art projects that we've done in the digital realm have been so experimental in nature. One of my favorite examples is the Traveling Creature, which was this art project that we did where every single person that had a an artwork of a creature, from the original creature collection, was able to effectively have this torch that they would like pass between each other. So if I sent you, Toady, this torch, an artwork would be created of me and you together. Now you have the torch, and you send it over to Carlos. Now an artwork of you and Carlos is made together, and it was just like seeing this stuff happen. It felt like art that could only come out of a dream, art that could only come out of like literally a kid's dream of like, oh, what if this was possible?
Mm-hmm.
And so I sort of grew this appetite for more experimental artwork because of the digital realm, and uh, this, before I even get into sort of how that has influenced this week and the stuff that we're coming out with this week, what I'll also say is it rubbed off on me in a lot of the rest of my life. It made me so attracted to this idea of, well, what does it look like to disrupt the clothes that I wear? What does it look like to make? What does it look like to make clothes that are very different than I'd imagined before? To make paintings that are very different than I imagined before. Like I was sincerely inspired so much across the board in my life by just sort of the disruption that I experienced in Web3, you know? But to get like, sorry, I know I'm jumping around about a lot, but like to talk about kind of the idea of what kind of impact came from the community around this, I think one of the most noticeable things was before all this, I was making paintings. You know, I was still doing like all like graffiti and all this stuff. After all this, the difference was now there were eyes around the world looking at it. And you know, this is a fancy way of saying a lot of people that came and discovered Creature World through digital art, they went on to become really familiar with Creature World and my work through all of the different mediums that I work in. And
That's the dream, right? That's what you hope will happen.
yeah, I mean and it almost contradicts a lot of what the media would have you think about what digital art is all about. You know, like you hear about it on the news through this lens of like traders and this and that, but like I'll just say like my experience has been remarkably different from that, which is really cool. You know,
How would you characterize it differently? You know, if you're saying that Creature World as an NFT project wasn't focused on traders, which I think is accurate,
mm-hmm.
what would you say it was more focused on?
It was focused on experience. You know, it was focused on the idea of it has always been how, you know, based on what media I'm working in, how can you experience this art differently? So Creature World has always been an experiential art project. You know, there's a reason it's even called Creature World and not like the creatures, because it's not about the character. It's about the universe that they exist within and how you can be a part of it, you know, and how you can enter it. So, yeah.
Danny, I'm interested in learning or hearing your thoughts on kind of like the differences between collectors, IRL and on chain. So I think a lot
Mm,
of people might not that aren't familiar with the crypto art niche. They don't realize that there are collectors and curators and even investment DAOs, right? That are like dedicated to just collecting uh, digital art.
mm.
So can you kind of speak to the differences between your collectors off chain?
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, in some ways, these things are so remarkably different that um, that it's hard to even compare the two. But in other ways, they're the exact same thing. So I'd rather focus on the overlap almost. Um, just give me 2 seconds. I'm going to see if I can have folks pause the music in the other studio, just because I'm hearing too many things at once.
No worries. Your mic is doing a pretty good job of filtering it out, actually. But this is how you know we're live. You know, no faking it here.
This is how you know it's a real art
Definitely,
studio.
definitely no faking it. Um, yeah, I mean, so I sometimes answer the same question, speaking through the lens of how much I feel like I learned growing up at my dad's business, because my dad was a sports card dealer, and
Okay.
he started a sports memorabilia auction house when he was a kid, you know, and I lived there for 18 years.
So
And
he was an NFT trader before NFT traders.
yeah, yeah, super funny. um, I I actually have some funny stories about that, exactly, but I've had people ask me throughout the years, they're like, oh, so like you grew up at an auction house, so you were like around art all the time. It's like, no, actually, like I was never, pretty much. Like there was not really art there. But the basis of collecting to me is this sort of universal thing where it's never really about an object so much. It's so much about taking action to be closer to something you care about. It's so much about involving yourself in a passion that a lot of other people share, that you can connect with one another about. It's really a lot of the time about everything uh, other than ownership. You know, um, it's. I one time like came to understand with the baseball cards that nobody was actually buying a piece of paper. They were they were buying sort of the reward that, oh, I've loved something for so long and now I get to be closer to it. They were buying the closeness, and they were buying the fact that they would then get to unite with other people because they had that closeness, you know. And
I always wonder. I always
yeah.
wonder about those dopamine triggers, and what the reason for them is. Why do they exist? Why do we love collecting things so much as humans? Is it because we spent so much of our existence like collecting food and keeping it for the next winter? But it really is something primal. We just love like completing a collection and like getting that little dopamine hit.
Yeah, it's I think some of it is, maybe this is heady, but like some of it is that biologically our purpose is to, to keep to keep life alive. And in order for us to want to do that, there has to be an incentive. And I feel like that incentive is enjoyment. It is dopamine,
Right.
So it makes sense that we've evolved to be able to have fun, because that makes me want to live another day. That makes me want to live
Sure.
forever.
Yeah, and maybe we're living vicariously through our tchotchkes too. Maybe we're like if we
Well,
collect enough of these things.
I mean, maybe it's that having our tchotchkes around us measurably does actually impact us, bring us joy. You would not believe the amount of colorful furniture, that I put around my studio, where I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I'm in heaven. You take it away from me, like I'd find another way to be happy, but like I would feel different.
By the way, I have to point out that Carlos bet me that I couldn't include the word tchotchke in a base game. So
There we go. That's so good.
another bet one.
You're
That's
Uh,
so
only
good.
97 away.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Danny, can you tell us a little bit about the creature, if you don't mind? I thought that was a really cool initiative that you guys. I don't know if you call it an initiative or an art project that you guys did last year.
Oh my God. So honestly, legally, I can only say so much now, but
Okay,
but
give us the bear. Give us the top level.
there is a park in New York called the High Line, and the High Line is it was at one point train tracks that ran through the city, and then they closed down that train line and they made it into a public park where you could walk these train tracks. It gets a lot of foot traffic. I made a sculpture that was like 12 feet tall, 1,000 pounds, giant creature, and I put it up overlooking the High Line. That is legally now all I can say about it. I cannot, I cannot, I cannot speak to anything about permission or charges. But what I can say is everything landed in a really great place, and it is now a permanent installation in New York City that is never going away. So if you happen to visit the High Line, if you visit the Shed, you can go see it. It's not going anywhere. And yeah, I'm happy with
All
it.
we can
Very happy
say
with it.
is Danny doesn't believe that permissionless building is only for on chain. That's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
we
I
can
mean,
say.
literally, I have right above my desk right
He
here.
said,
Um, this was that some arrest photos right there from Hollywood too.
was
Um,
Holly Cow, right? The Holly Cow
yeah,
installation.
yeah.
Like
Um,
Doc said, let us get 10% of the next mint.
yeah. Let's. I mean, this right here, this whole series that I'm working on right now, this will definitely find its way around New York. But I'm not gonna snitch on myself before I have the
That
opportunity to do anything.
that kind of has like a Sasquatch feel to me, Sasquatch creature. I don't know if that was the vibe, but
Well, I mean, actually, it is the vibe. That's awesome.
okay.
But I'm also just in. I haven't previewed any of the new work that I've been doing over the last 8 months or so. But and I even have an old painting on the easel for this reason. But the new work that I'm doing is actually moving past cartoons. I'm largely not working in cartoons anymore. It still is the creature world, and it still is the creatures, but just getting into much more realistic styles. It feels more exciting to me.
That's cool. It's cool to see artists, in my opinion, anyway. Trying different mediums, trying different styles, and making them their own. So that's cool to hear.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you.
One thing I wanted to point out too is I actually just recently had David Horvath on one of our other podcasts. You know David,
Love
right?
him.
From
Yeah, I love him.
yeah. So and we had a great conversation, and he talked about how he always just kind of drew the characters that he's now known for, like Ugly Doll and Bossy Bear. He just kind of always drew those types of characters. I'm wondering if that's true for you. Did you kind of always just doodle these creatures, or did they come to you at some point?
Yeah, I started drawing them. I started finger painting them when I was in preschool. My family still
Wow,
has all the original ones.
that's crazy.
I had been drawing these things way before I considered them to be art. I still kind of don't even consider them to be art. I just think they're like a thing that I like. But uh, definitely had been drawing them before I ever thought to even speak about them.
That made me feel bad for a second for throwing away my daughter's art. Because
You never know what'll
it
happen.
piles up all the time.
Yeah,
That's funny. Not to keep like name dropping guests, but we also had Vinny Hager on our podcast before, and he talked about how his
dude.
mother like religiously kept every single doodle that he ever did. So like he like cleaned out his mom's basement at one point. He has like these doodles from when he was in high school, which I mean, with Vinny isn't that long ago, but still,
Yeah.
it's cool
I
that
mean,
he's always
Vinny's
had that
older than
style.
me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You've both accomplished a lot, so that's awesome.
Yeah, Vinny's my guy. I like Vinny Hager.
Vinny's amazing. I love his
Yeah.
style. But I just always find that interesting when you can see that the style like emerges so early in people and that they
Yeah.
just kind of run with it.
But I mean, yeah, I could talk a lot about Vinny. I
Give us
think that Vinny.
give us the juice on
Well,
Vinny.
no, it's. I mean, it's interesting to hear him that he was speaking about sort of his mother's relationship with his artwork, because I think that she's she's passed away, right?
I think that might be the case. It was a while ago
Yeah.
we had that conversation, but I think that's
Yeah.
what the context was. Yeah.
So I mean, I kind of. I totally understand how. Um, I totally understand how he might have learned to see his art through his mother's eyes, and kind of might be able to continue her life onward by making things and seeing them through her eyes. Like I don't know. I have my own ways where I relate. Like I had never heard him talk about his parents and his art, so that's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to take some time if we can to talk a little bit about what you've got cooking.
Yeah.
On base. You've got a new project that's going to be coming out called Creature Cubes. I believe it's tomorrow, but correct me if I'm wrong there.
It
And it's going to be
is tomorrow. Yeah.
tomorrow, and it's
Mhm.
going to be an ERC 404. So for those who are not super familiar with 404, can you tell us a little bit about what that entails and what Creature Cubes is all about?
Yeah. Absolutely. So what I'll kind of start with a baseline of like what is 404, and then I'll tell you a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about the project.
Perfect.
So when you have an NFT, that's an ERC 721. That is, you can think of it like many different versions of what this is, but in my case, it's a digital artwork. Think of it painting on your computer. You can't buy half of it, it's a painting, you know? So you have a painting or you don't.
Yeah.
An ERC20 is a coin, you know? It's a, so if I had, if I had a coin, I can have 50 cents of it. I can have $1 of it. You can infinitely fractionalize it.
Right.
These are kind of the key differences between ERC 721, ERC 20, like at a super basic level.
And traditionally, you have to choose one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, well, traditionally they're just two different things, you know. Um, the idea of an ERC 404 is to bind together an ERC 721 and an ERC 20. It's to bind together what you can think of as an artwork and a token. So in our case here, what you have is if you buy one creature cube, automatically 1,000 cube tokens will show up in your wallet. You have these two things. If I go ahead and send my creature cube somewhere else, those 1,000 tokens are attached to it. They're going to automatically send with it. If I go ahead and send my 1,000 tokens, the cube is automatically going to send with it because these things are bound to each other. But as we know, an ERC20 as a token, as a coin, is infinitely fractionalizable, if that's a
Right.
word. You're able to infinitely
I think it is.
fractionalize it,
Yeah.
you know?
It is now. If it wasn't before.
Yeah, totally. So what happens if I go and I transfer out 500 tokens? Well, there needs to be 1,000 tokens in a wallet for a cube to exist. So your creature cube will burn. So now I have 500 tokens and I have no creature cube. What if I go and I source 500 more? I round it back out to 1,000.
Yep.
There's this pile of creature cubes that have been burned. A random one of those will be selected and automatically reappear in your wallet. And this is just kind of like a base level of what I think people need to understand for like how to engage with this project, but it's not actually the entirety of it. I'm just kind of interested in people understanding that one component because there's some really interesting ways to engage with this that are going to be really intuitive that I think people will pick up on really quickly. I think there will be some great folks that lead by example and show how collecting these is very different, and how there are really, really new collector mechanics based on, based on this being ERC 404,
But for
especially
one, I guess
social ones. Yeah,
they're infinitely re-rollable. I guess in a way. Well, not
absolutely.
infinitely, but
No, no, no,
depending
no,
on the
no.
pool.
No, but you're right. Like they are but the pool is ultimately defined by there's just a day where it's an open edition is how these are actually coming out, and so we're starting out with this even match of for every cube that exists there's 1,000 coins, so
Okay.
there's never like a mismatch of like
Okay.
how is there not one to show up my wallet, um, but you're totally right, and and I think that people already engage with one another using, um, you know, using ERC20s. They send them around amongst each other. So sort of by creating this new byproduct of that existing process, I think that there's this really fun moment of like, well, let me check my wallet and see what's in there. Um, and I'm really
Which by the
excited to
way
see.
is like, which is like what all original, you know, NFT projects from 2021 were kind of predicated on, is that like, that randomization of like, what am I going to get? Am I going to get a rare? And that's kind of like a fun collector behavior.
Yeah, I just think that there's something really unique that like by engaging with one another, you are you are sort of having this like evolving status of like what am I actually holding on to right now? And is there anything that's in here where I'm like, oh, I gotta stop what I'm doing. I need to focus on the fact that something I actually desire fell into my lap.
That's cool. Can you talk to us a little bit about the art? Maybe I think it's a
Yeah.
different style than maybe what we're used to. It's kind of like a 3D rendered style. I don't know if you would put it that way, but can you talk talk to us about that?
Yeah, I would put it that way. Well, I think that a really interesting component of this is if you look at the history of every single Creature World project and experiment. Um, sorry, my phone is ringing like crazy. I don't know how to turn it on Do Not Disturb right now. There we go.
Someone's blowing you up.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. Um, so
It's probably Jesse from base. He's like, "Are we ready for tomorrow?"
yeah, exactly. Um, if you look at the history of every single sort of digital art experiment that Creature World has done, all of the things that we walked away from every previous project being like, this was the part of this that we liked the most, we were able to fit them into this one project. Um, and I think after experiencing it, you'll notice the presence of Traveling Creature in it. You'll notice the presence of Creature Playground. You'll notice the presence of the initial Creature World mint experience and journey, where you have these 3D environments that you're able to engage with. But there's even more that we've built upon it, even delving into, well, what does it look like to wind up with a digital art collection? Sort of designing our own home for these artworks, so collectors are able to have a way to experience them exactly as we imagine they can be best experienced. It's really fun, and uh, and I am looking forward to people experiencing it because it's something where I can sort of take myself out of my own shoes and look at it and be like, this is something that would really excite me. This is something that I would really want to experience. And that's a that's a bar that is pretty high because I am a pretty critical I'm a pretty critical guy about what I give my time to. I think that life is very short, and I really only like to give my time to things that I feel like truly enhance my experience being here.
I love that. I wanted to just. I'm not sure if you guys can see my screen. Can you see my screen, Carlos?
Yep, I can see it.
Uh, Okay, I just wanted to. I was looking at this video earlier. I wanted to kind of ask, what are we looking at here in this video? We're seeing the creature cubes. It looks like several of them are kind of being connected together. Is this
Mm-hmm.
like how you display all the ones that are in your wallet, or just tell us what I'm looking at here?
Yeah, so what you're looking at here is our custom collection home. So this is, if you had a collection of cubes, this is where they would live. Um, and these are some. These are some.
Whoa, sorry, I didn't realize there was sound there.
Had a heart attack. Um, these are three cubes that are mine on testnet.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
You'll be able you'll be able to interact with these on an iframe like directly from the marketplace as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun. What has the response been from the community so far from these?
People are really hyped. I'm yeah, I'm really grateful. I'm really lucky. I I think that the biggest risk with a project that is so experimental is just like, will people understand it? Because everybody's smart enough to be able to understand it, but it's like, do people care enough to take the time to wrap their head around something that is different, that is, unfamiliar, and people have been willing to, and that is something that like I have so much gratitude for.
Yeah, I think these experiments around sort of blurring the lines between art and tokens are really interesting. I don't know if you've heard what Zora's been doing recently. Have you seen what they've done with their most recent protocol update?
I mean, it's possible that I have, but I want to make sure I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
You want to?
it's kind of similar. It's like similar idea to 404s, where basically if you mint an open edition on their platform, it's open for like 24 hours as an open edition, and then after that, it automatically seeds an LP with tokens that are basically that go back and forth between 1155s instead of 721s. But
Hmm.
same, it's a very similar idea. But I love this design space of like what happens when people can trade fractions of a piece of art as though as easily as if it was a shit coin or a meme coin on Uniswap. And like, does that
Yeah,
change collector behavior? Does that change community behavior? It's kind of an unexplored space.
yeah. I think the most interesting thing about 404 is that it's that a fraction isn't even a piece of art. That like that
Mm,
it's a fraction of the potential for something to be a piece of art.
right.
Yeah.
Danny, I was wondering
Yeah.
if it would be possible to visualize the creature cubes that are not in, I don't know how to phrase this, in circulation or existence.
Like,
So
do
for
you have
instance,
a way
if
to see the
someone,
pool that is burned?
yeah, that way, cause then I could potentially say like, oh, I really like that one. I'm gonna try to keep re-rolling until I get that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, no, totally. And like the answer is like I'm not particularly facilitating that,
Mhm.
but
Okay, yeah,
yes, you can.
but it's
It's
blockchain,
the
so someone
blockchain
do it.
after all.
Yeah,
Someone
Yeah.
do it.
totally.
Very cool. Okay, I with that response, I get what you are saying with you're looking forward to seeing the experimentation that comes from the community, right?
Absolutely.
Because this being
Absolutely. You're on the money. You get it
new
exactly.
rails is going to allow people to really experiment.
Totally.
Cool.
And think about the
Cut.
people that are deciding to, engage in think about all the different ways that you can engage with these tokens and how like so many things that might be the apple of this person's eye might be just randomly burned by this person. Like it's this is a moment where you will see people with many different interests unite around the same project.
I could
We see
see.
that with nouns from time to time actually too, because with nouns, I won't get too deep in the weeds, but someone basically fractionalized, allowed for nouns fractionalization recently and created an ERC20 called nouns, dollar sign nouns. And you're able to, as a noun owner, if you want, deposit your noun into a contract, receive 1 million nouns tokens. And so there's some interesting play happening there. But
Wow.
it's kind of similar to what you're just saying, where someone will just deposit this noun into the contract, and someone else might look at it and be like, "What the hell? How could anyone get rid of that noun? I totally want that one." And then they're going to save up 1 million noun tokens to
Hmm.
grab it. And you can see that
Absolutely.
with these as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. You get it.
We're coming
I'd
up on
love
the
to
end of the
see.
show here, but Carlos, maybe I wanted to ask a couple questions that were about base, since this is the base builder show. I'd love to hear from Danny why you decided to build this collection on base, because obviously there's many different options. You could have done it on mainnet like you've done in the past,
Mhm.
or one of the other L2s or Solana. Why did you choose base?
I just felt like it was a no-brainer, like base has been a home for experimentation that it is incredibly efficient through every lens of the word. Um, but really to take it back to that first point, more than anything, like base has stood out in the way that it is interested in facilitating engagement and experimentation from builders. And so it just felt like the right home to me, you know.
Is this one of the first 404 projects on base? Because I don't think I've seen one before, but I might be wrong. There certain haven't been very
It's
many, that's for sure.
I don't like what I think versus what might be true. Who knows? So I'm not even going to speak to that.
Okay. Fair enough. Have you been active on base since it launched last year?
Yeah.
What got your attention about base in particular?
I mean, I've just followed along really, really closely, and even when like I always kind of have this mentality that I don't like to open my mouth unless I have something to say. So there are long periods where like I'm looking at everything every single day, but I'm like, I don't have anything to say yet. And over the last year, there's just this accumulation of thing after thing that is enough is sort of like exciting enough for me to want to read into it. That happens to be on base where I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you wind up just building an understanding of what base is all about.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and I think you're right that there's not only is the team good at promoting experimentation, but the community within base seems to be really interested in checking out new things and new types of art. So I think it'll be a good fit.
Yeah, I'm on the exact same page.
I love it. So tomorrow, the launch is tomorrow. Can you give us a little bit of the details on where people can find the collection and how they can participate?
Yeah. Let me go on mute and ask if we're sharing this information yet.
Okay, give us the alpha. Come on.
He's saving it for the paid alpha group.
Maybe so. Can anyone read lips?
One second.
I'm just joking. Carlos.
So no, I can't tell you anything.
This is
Apparently, I already said things that we decided not to share yet. So,
there you go. People got the alpha by tuning in, but
yeah,
that's okay. But I mean, the reality is though, it's going to happen tomorrow, and if they want to be in the know, they got to follow you at Danny Cole with 3 E's at the end on X. Right? Is that the best spot?
exactly. Yeah, 100%.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you jumping on with us, Danny. It was always nice to chat with you and hear more of your story. And good luck with the launch tomorrow. We'll be paying attention. I know Carlos is going to be taking
Amazing.
the day off
I was
to re-roll.
also I was told that in terms of when it comes out, the answer is this week. We're not specifying.
Okay. Gotcha.
Cool.
I mean, I don't know where I got that previous information. I think
Yeah.
it was somewhere before. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's probably our texts.
All right.
Awesome,
Well,
man.
apologies, but
No, it's totally
anyway,
fine.
we'll be looking out for it, and I think it's going to be great, and I can't wait to explore it myself as well. So
Amazing. Cool. You're the man. Thank you
appreciate
guys
it.
so much for having me. Bye
And we're going to take you
All
up
right.
next time we're in New York. We're definitely going to come down to that studio and get that tour.
bye. I would love that. Awesome.
I love it.
Such a pleasure, guys.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Dan. All right. Thank you,
All
Carlos. This has been another episode of the Base Builder Show. We'll be back here, same time, same channel. Tomorrow. Next week, a Wednesday at 3 p.m. EST. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and have a great rest of your Wednesday.
All right.
Hey, cheers,
Later.
Danny. If you don't mind, just keep the browser tab open for a couple seconds while the recording saves, and that way we'll be able to fix some of the stuff in post before we put it out. Oh, we might have lost him already, maybe. Anyways, we'll figure it out. All right. Thanks, Carlos. Have a good day.
All right. Later, dude.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.